How's it going? Welcome to a discussion about Dicekai. So, Dicekai is a job specialty based tabletop role playing game. It's more about who you are and who your character is. In Dicekai, you or your players fall through a portal, and that is the character. There is the possibility to be changed as you come out on the other side, but you have your memories. You are you when you come out of there. The goal behind this is to more explore, I'll say more explore who you are, but that's kind of what it comes down to. I wanted a game system where there's not a lot of character creation. There's not a lot of things to worry about. It's just get in the game, play, and be your character. So it starts off pretty much with job and specialty system. Your job, it's a 2d6. Well, all right, it's a d6 system with generally up to 4d6. If you're trying to do something that falls under your job, let's say you're a scribe and you're trying to figure out a certain language, you're going to roll 1d6. Let's say you're a scribe and you're trying to pick a lock. That's not really part of your job. Then you're going to roll 2d6 and drop the highest. Let's say you're a scribe with an authentication specialty because you used to work under the king, and that's the skill you gained. Because of this, you can now determine whether or not something was written by who is being claimed that it was written by, or maybe like fine details in terms of was someone under distress when they're writing something. These that are less combat based are a little more broad. Anything that is like a weapon, then you specialize in the sword, you specialize in the axe. It's very specific. If you specialize in necrotic bolts, that is specifically a necrotic bolt. It is a necrotic, think of it like a crossbow bolt, only of necrotic energy. Detecting lies. The way all this stuff works is if it's a physical action, so let me back that up. If it's an action against someone's skin or toughness, it's going to go against their defense, which is a flat number that each character has. If it is a contested one, where it's not against their flesh or armor, then it is going against their relevant job or specialty. Let's say someone's trying to read someone's mind. You're a sorcerer who specializes in mind reading is going against a paladin who specializes in meditation, mental defense, blah, blah, blah. So the defense, again, is a little bit more broad, whereas the attack is more specific. It's specifically mind reading to try and get information out of something. The sorcerer, pretty sure that's what I said at the beginning, the sorcerer is going to roll 2d6, and they're going to take the highest of those 2d6. The paladin, who's defending, is going to also roll 2d6 because it falls under his specialty to defend. The paladin also takes the highest of the 2d6. Let's say they both rolled a 4. The attacker is going to win. The person who is the aggressor is the one who wins. If both parties are the aggressor in a situation, then it's the player's choice, or in some situations, the GM's choice as to if both hit or if neither hit. Now, if you're trying to get this information from them, there's a little bit of details that go into it. Falls under the CC pool, or crowd control pool, sorry. That's how you determine whether or not how much information you can get out of this person with this ability without causing, we'll say, irreparable damage. Because Dicekai is not about you succeeding, it's about how you succeed. What specifically do you choose to do to defeat the current situation? So let's say you need to get past a door. Well, do you pick the lock? Well, lockpick doesn't work. Ideally, in Dicekai, you don't repeat the same action that failed. So in that case, that's when the barbarian comes in and kicks the door. Well, now you just kicked in a door and there's damage to the door, so someone's definitely going to know you were there. Is that a big deal? Who knows? That's for the GM to figure out as to what happens with the story. That goes into threads and stuff later. And there was something I was going to talk about just then, but I totally forgot about it. Anyways, moving on. So when you start out, you're going to start with 2 jobs and 1 specialty. These things are automatically ingrained in you when you spawn into the world. How you want to do this is entirely up to the GM. You could appear in front of a god or goddess and they assign you these abilities. There's also going to be ways to like increase your defense, your stride. Your stride is your movement. And then units are what are referred to as distance. It can be 1 inch, 1 square, 1 hex. And then there's 3 centimeters. Well, anyways, it goes in other things. That's all in the book. Already went over specialties. Gain 1 defense. Make your skin stronger, or you can add additional specialty. How do you look? That's up to you. It's up to the player and the GM. Is it a world that doesn't have demons? Well, then you're not going to be able to run around with horns unless the GM approves it. That's pretty much it. Nothing much to go over there past that. We already went over attacks. Advantage and disadvantage. So advantage, you roll 1 additional d6 and you still take the highest. Disadvantage, you add 1 d6, but you take away the highest. If you have double disadvantage on a, we'll say an unskilled roll, I don't think I went over that. Unskilled roll, you roll 2d6 and you drop the highest. When you add disadvantage onto that, we'll say double disadvantage, you're rolling 4d6 and you're taking the very lowest number. Now, if you roll a 6 that is usable, so like disadvantage dice do not count, but unskilled dice do count. Biggest reason behind that is sometimes if you want to use a job, but the only way you're going to succeed is by a crit, then you can do a jobless check, and then you have more of a possibility to roll a crit. So when you roll a 6 or 2 6s, you crit. When you roll 3 6s, you're stacking the crit. 4 6s stacks it a little bit higher. That crit, it works in some form or fashion, or at least does not make the situation worse. And then every stack above that increases the strength of it. For every 6 you roll, you get to re-roll that 6 in hopes to get another 6, which can increase the crit or grant you a crit in the first place. If it was a crit die that was a 6, though, or a disadvantage die that was a 6, then you have to drop that die, and it does not get re-rolled. There is also snake eyes. If you roll 2 1s on your lowest or the highest usable dice, then you crit fail. It's like comes out to the chance to crit comes out to like a 7.8 or something like that, and then snake eyes comes out to like a 3.2 or whatever. The other thing I want to talk about is how weapons work. Weapons are in very broad categories. You have burdensome, deadly, versatile, utility. So starting with deadly, deadly is your generic weapons. They are not ranged. They're swords. They're things that are meant only for dealing damage. Then you have versatile, which are meant to also do something in addition to it. Does it carry a poison? Is it slightly arranged? That's your versatile. Utility Utility is going to be your very broad category, or your extremely ranged spells. So if it's something that's trying to grab someone's feet, then that's going to fall under utility. If it's a net, it's going to fall under utility. Yeah, you can read it if you want to read it. You also have burdensome. So burdensome is a weapon type that is something that causes some type of disadvantage. Not disadvantage, a drawback, something that makes it a little bit harder to do something. So if you have a extremely big axe, well, now you can't dodge when an attack comes to hit you. Or maybe it starts off in a weakened state. So whenever you miss, it turns into a frail state. And then in a frail state, whenever it hits, it breaks. These are just different ideas of things you can do. The goal is you just want to draw back for whenever you bump up the damage of a weapon. It's not recommended to go above 4 in damage, but if you want to do it, it's your game. The only thing you want to avoid is just that one player does not stand out as the player, always excelling, always doing everything, always doing the most damage. I don't want to say like share the spotlight, because everyone has their own way they want to excel. And anyways, we'll go into that later, possibly. Just not in this video. So next part, we have vitality. So vitality is what you're primarily going to be tracking. I'm going to give a BS percentage that 95% of players are only be tracking vitality. The other stuff isn't really, there's not much else to track unless you have a specific specialty or a specific job. All right. So vitality is also what is spent to heal. Vitality is like your energy, it's your mana in your body, it's your luck, it's how durable you are. All these things are captured by vitality. If you want to do something special, you can spend your vitality to do it. Already wanted a healing. Death. So when you reach 0 vitality, you are unconscious. If you reach your level in negative value, you are dead. Your character body is no longer usable, but your spirit does still linger. That spirit can be put into a different creature that is unconscious. More or less, it's a way that resets your character. Some jobs and specialties can carry over, but I don't really see it unless you want to make it make sense to you. If you're a stealthy character and then you're put into a minotaur body, I personally don't really see minotaurs as a very stealthy thing, but if you can swing it, you can swing it. Whatever makes sense at your table. So when you're spending your vitality, there's a bunch of different things you can do. These are guidelines, they're guardrails that you're free to crash through, but it's meant more as keeping everyone in some sense of structure so that one person's not able to do way more than everyone else is just because they were given this special ability. Just try and keep it in some constraints unless you're specifically breaking the constraints for a reason. So you can read all these, what they cost and what you can do. Some of them are stackable, some of them are not. The social one's a little bit interesting. That's to try and give a little bit of a... I wanted to give in social situations a way to increase your role, but also have it come at a cost. Excuse me. Have it come at a cost or a risk. Yeah, that's pretty much that. Crowd control. So the way crowd control works is you're basically attacking the other creature or character, and whatever you beat the roll by +1, So even if it's 0, you still get +1. And then if that's your CC pool against that character, if that character spends an action, then 1 point is deducted from the CC pool. If your CC is a hard CC and prevented a specific action, then another point drops off. So let's say you have a CC pool, you roll 2d6 and you beat them by 2, right? So you now have 2 points in your CC pool plus the 1, so a total of 3. Let's say you were doing a hard CC and you froze their feet to the ground. A character spends an action and is frozen to the ground. That burns 1 point by spending the action, and then 1 point for an action that was prevented. Technically, movement isn't part of an action, but in this case, you roll it together and make it 1. I don't want the rules to be extremely constrained and cover every single nuance. That's up to the GM to determine and play with. Now, so 2 points have been burned. Now you have 1 additional point. That 1 additional point, when an action is spent, it is burned, but it counts for the action being prevented as well. So if the GM's ruling that, actually we'll just change it. Let's say it's someone who does a lot of kicking. That's how they attack. So when you froze their feet, they couldn't attack with that first action. That second action, they also can't kick to attack. It's, even though there's only 1 point remaining, you still prevent that action from happening. The reason behind that is because soft CC, something that reduces or gives disadvantage and doesn't prevent, that reduces by 1 point per action they take. So soft burns slowly. Soft burns slowly, and then hard burns a little bit faster, or twice as fast. This is where it comes into like the whole mind reading situation, where you can read all this if you want to go into it. But basically, if it's not something that's difficult to do when you're trying to pull information from them, it doesn't cost anything. If it gets a little bit difficult, it costs 1. If it's very difficult, it costs 2. If you have no points remaining, you can push again into their mind, but now you might be breaking them mentally, and who knows what the repercussions of that are. That's the, as I discussed before, the premise of Dicekai is it's not about you succeeding, it's about how you succeed. So you break this guy's mind. Well, now you've just committed a possible war crime against someone. And then maybe when that person comes back and they're drooling, then the person who, their boss, realizes, oh crud, this guy just had his mind broken. Now they know everything. Or now I'm going to get payback for the guys who hurt my person. So payback, person, hurt. That's how that works. Repercussions for stuff that you've done. So I think that's highlighted yellow, still working on. The inventory system is more loose than most games. So if it's reasonable for your character to have something like rope, you have it. If it's reasonable for you to have knives on you, you have knives on you. The exception to this is you do not have 200 knives, so you can scale a wall and leave them in there like what are they called? Like climbing. We're just going to call them climbing sticks. I don't remember what they're called. You do not have 200 knives. Is it reasonable for you to have 10? Maybe it depends on your character. Maybe it depends on your character. Yeah, so it just kind of comes down to what feels right. You kind of go with anime logic. You don't have food. It's implied or assumed that you have the food, water. You have either access to it or you pay for it. It does not come out of your gold when you're eating unless you're going to something like a fine dining. where it's your choice, or you're trying to pay someone off, or you're trying to do something specific that isn't a general task. General task would be eating. The reason behind this is I don't like tracking all the minutia. I don't like, oh, you only had 3 rations today, so you're going to have to go forage for food. I don't like that in video games. I don't like that in tabletop games, so that's not going to be in here. If you're trying to pay off the barkeep, though, even though it costs you 5 silver to rent a room, you pay the barkeep 15 silver because you want a little bit more information or because you want them to watch out for something, then that is going to cost you that additional 5 silver. But again, it comes down to that little bit of extra that you're trying to do is what you end up spending. If you're bribing someone, that's what you're spending, not on the general items. And the other reason for that is it rolls into the premise of what I'm trying to do with this game. When I like to play games with my friends, it's more, I care more about the story evolving. I care about their choices, their actions, and cutting all the other BS out of the way allows me to focus more on, okay, where am I going to adjust, not really adjust the story, but where is the story going to go with their actions? They just kidnapped the princess because the princess is unhappy with where she is. Well, now I have to figure that out. Instead of focusing on, oh, well, they're on the run now. So I need to let them know that they're going to be moving over this much distance. So they're going to need this many rations. No, just to take the princess and they go. As long as the rules succeed, they're good. Now, that doesn't mean they might not be, that doesn't mean they couldn't be stuck in a situation where they need water. So they're stuck in the desert. You tell them beforehand, you tell the players beforehand, hey, this is going to be a harsh environment. Make sure you guys plan for water because that is something we're going to track in this instance. 90, yes, number, 95% of the game, I think I used that number before, you should not be tracking food, water, anything like that. Arrows, you have as many arrows as you need. There is something in the game that's called last arrow. Doesn't have to be used for arrows, but what it means is you have one ability you're going to use, and it's going to be the last one you can use of that ability. You cannot use that ability again until after you've rested. And if I remember right, it grants advantage or double advantage. Oh no, sorry, you crit on 3, 4, 5, and 6 is what you crit on. Which when I did the math on it, I think it was like a 50% chance to crit. So it might have just been 4, 5, and 6. I don't know. Either way, drastically, that's what it was. It was 3, 4, 5, and 6, but you only reroll 6s, and then only 3, 4, and 5. And 3, 4, 5, and 6 count towards the crit. My apologies. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I really want to talk about today. So hopefully you enjoyed this dive into what Dicekai is. If you want the rules, the latest version that is public is on the website, dicekai.com. If you wanted to keep following along, well, follow along. Have a good one, guys.